record.
You got it.
Yes. No. I'm grateful. I did a podcast called Beatles Come to America. We did
Yep.
the U.S. albums. We wanted a limited thing because Brooke is like he was 18 years old in 1964, so he has a lot of projects. He's doing a movie about the Beatles, and he's trying to get finance and all that good stuff. So it
Gotcha.
ours had to have an end date. We couldn't keep on going. But for you with two legs, man, you are just trudging along. You're 5 years into this.
Yeah.
What?
Crazy.
Yeah. What? I think you have to almost explain it to the guests. Like this interview is one as a thank you because I'm a big fan of your work.
Oh,
Yeah, and
thank,
I'm a big
thank you.
fan of the Beatles. So I feel that sometimes that you guys are doing your topics and whatever, we never get a chance to talk to you or listen to kind of what's in your head. And we got like 40 minutes to do it. So that's why
Sure, sure. Tom, how can I ask you, how do you listen or watch us? Do you listen to us podcast or do you watch us on YouTube?
I listen to the podcast.
You listen to the audio. So you're an audio guy. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I actually, it's weird because democracy is failing and I'm really worried about the world. And all of a sudden, one of yours come in and bang, I'm okay. I stop with what I'm doing and I have to listen.
That's really great to hear. And on behalf of Tom, I really thank you for following us. And it's been what a long, strange trip it's been, as Jerry's saying. Almost nearly 5 years to be with him is remarkable. Some days it feels like yesterday. Some days it feels like it's been years because we try to stay very prolific and true to ourselves and what we do and try to pump out good content just about every week.
Yeah, that's the part where people don't realize like the commitment because you both obviously have jobs. You guys are that the preparation for a show, you're not winging it. You're doing
No.
prep work and then you got to promote it and it's a lot. I'd say one of my shows normally for my jazz show,
Your
it takes about
jazz
at least 10 hours at the minimum. Yeah. Yeah.
of
And that's like,
the research. Yeah, because if you're gonna book guests and authors, you need to do your homework and you can't just wing it. If you're gonna do that, as I often say on the show, we use YouTube as a medium, but we're not YouTubers. We're podcasters, and we just use that platform.
yeah. Okay, so this is the first thing I want to say to you is,
Sure.
have you ever done any voiceover work? Because I feel you got that voice that could really work with like cartoon characters or something.
I have not, and I would really be interested in doing some of that work. I know I have a lot of actually I have a lot of former students because I'm a teacher, and they do a lot of this work.
Yeah, there must be some kind of there's a somewhere out there that your voice is necessary.
Thank you. I would love to dabble in a little of that. Appreciate that. I mean, people have said, "Oh, you definitely have more of a radio type voice." Well, and I grew up listening to New York radio, so those influences obviously still come across with the show.
You're in Jersey, right?
I am.
Okay, so yeah, so it must have been interesting watching Detroit win that one. For your cohort Tom.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
yeah.
back in the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
He,
He's back in Michigan now, and him and his cousin David are all Detroit fired up. The text messages were flying, and hey, good for them. That's a great win.
yeah, you can't. They deserve it. And you were also talking about. I know this is going off the subject, but you were
That's all right.
talking about on the last episode about how sinful it was that the Peacock was forcing people to pay. And did you see during the Detroit? They were doing how great it was that Peacock had 22 million people, and it was revolutionary, and it was a
Yeah.
self-congratulatory. It didn't mention the fact that millions of people couldn't watch it or
Of course.
had no option. So
Right.
I mean, it's just so weird how like they pat themselves on the back during that time period.
Of course they are, and I think it's one day we're gonna have to pay to watch the Super Bowl. Mark my words.
It's a matter of time. It's all in design.
But
Like
Tom, where are you located?
I'm in Baltimore, so
Baltimore. Okay. Hey. All right.
yeah,
So
yeah. My
there you
show was
go.
called "Stuff That Came from Baltimore." I
Right.
had to change it because people didn't understand what it was a goofy title. And then I had to say, oh, it's a jazz, blues, and R&B podcast and radio show. So that now is the new name of the show.
Right, because I listened to the Beatles one because I written that you did a series just on that coming to America and all that. And I listened to those, went back, and then I saw that was initially just an offshoot of your main podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, a part of I had a real radio show on a real radio station, and we were doing jazz, and I was trying to connect the Beatles and jazz, and that's where I hooked up with Brooke, and then we started talking and like, how can we expand this? So that's where we started doing it. We were already on our way before the pandemic hit, of already
Yeah.
creating this, and then it was the pandemic that I realized, oh, I'm a Beatle dude. Like I am way deep in this. And I want to ask you a couple questions so people get a perspective of where you're
Sure.
at with Beatle World. So when did you get involved in Paul McCartney? Do you remember when you started getting excited?
Just specifically Paul as a solo artist.
Just like what year, what album did you like pick up and say, okay, that's where I start?
Well, my first kind of new album for Paul McCartney would have to be was Flowers in the Dirt in '89. I was about 8 years old at the time, and the bug was already planted as I kind of like this guy's work a lot. I love all the solo Beatles music, but that album was my first burned into my memory as a new fan, young kid. At the time, VH1, the McCartney Week, all the music videos to promote that album and all the videos. That was kind of like where I kind of came into it. And then obviously Off the Ground, and really they Off the Ground. It was my earliest memory of Paul, but then really it synthesizes really for me with the anthology and Off the Ground and all that. That's kind of where I was a fan. I liked his music, but then once the anthology came out, it was like there's no going back. And I was 14 or 15 then, and it was full throttle, all in for everything at that point.
It's hard to be a 15-year-old and a Paul McCartney fan. It's hard to explain it to your fan or friends. And then there's a pocket in your school of people who are like total Beatles, get where you're coming from, but then obviously they move away. So as an adult, it feels like I'm collecting my friends through the podcast. Like these are the friends that I had in high school that understood me. You know what I'm saying?
That were never there, but now are, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay, and it's okay because like with the new Now and Then, I was totally freaked because I really wanted a good experience. That when the Get Back came out, it blew me away. It exceeded my expectations, and I was like amazed at what a great product that they put out. It was just incredible. So I was able to turn to any stranger and say, "Did you see Get Back? Did you see Get Back? Did you see Get Back?" And I was like, I'm spreading the word. So, but when Now and Then came out, I was like, okay, it's just another project. It's like, okay, it's Get Back Naked
Right.
it's something that I can't run to the world and say, yo, this is something.
You can't, but Get Back was such a huge production, and of course, it being on Disney Plus meant that it was going to be in the stream of consciousness of most people because a lot of people have Disney Plus, and you could have, as you say, good talking points. Hey, did you see that mega series on Disney Plus? Even to the average Joe, you could have that conversation with people because it was on there. Now and Then, obviously, is much more narrow, but yeah, I mean, and just to think about it, that was not supposed to be an 8-hour thing. It was only supposed to be 3 hours, and then they, Peter Jackson expanded it through the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm greedy because I want every single day.
Right. We want more.
Yeah, yeah. I actually thought they would come out with a clothing line of what they were wearing. I think what was really cool is like George came out every single day with something crazy on. And I'm like, I would wear that. I know I'm like almost 60, but
like
I'd wear
the green pants and the green jacket, like all that stuff, right?
The furry boots that he had on was great.
Oh yes, yeah. Glenn John's wearing that like big furry thing, a big jacket.
Yeah, I'm like, there right there's a clothing line. Okay, so what is I had this idea of asking you this, that your favorite and your least favorite. So what would be your favorite Paul album, and then what is your least favorite Paul
album? So this is Paul, and this is everything, right? Wings, Paul, everything together, right?
I broke it down into, is it Paul, solo Paul, Wings, Beatles, and then your Paul favorite album, Beatles. It got real complicated. So
All
let's
right,
do
so
that.
go
Let's
ahead.
do
So I could just do solo and Outside of Wings.
yeah.
All right, Outside of Wings, favorite Paul album.
Mm,
Um, Outside of Wings, I'll say Ram.
right. Okay. What's your least favorite?
Least favorite Paul just solo album. I would say probably Press to Play.
Okay. I put Pipes of Peace. Yeah. I was
Okay.
Rams and Pipes of Peace. Um,
Okay.
your favorite duet, The Man, Say, Ebony and Ivory, The Girl Is Mine, or the two Kanye songs, Only One or 45 Seconds.
Um, hmm. I like I think I like The Man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I like The Man. I think The Man, and we did a show on The Man. I think that's the go-to because the other ones are just so I
Played
like
out.
the other songs, but they're overplayed. I think The Man is the single that never was.
When it comes down to it, Say, Ebony and Ivory is still in the top 100 as one of the best selling playing out songs,
Oh yeah.
along with Silly Love Song. So yeah, they were played out. Okay, so we're do this Wings songs. Wings songs. Your favorite and your least favorite.
Song at least favorite Wings song, least favorite Wings song.
Yeah.
Favorite Wings song, I'll say right today on the 15th of January, because it could change. I'll say right now, Little Lamb Dragonfly.
Okay.
It,
Yeah, I know it's your favorite.
from Red Rose Speedway. It's probably my favorite. Least favorite Wings song. Ooh. Um, Gee, let me think about that a second. I'll say does the broadcast count from Back to the Egg or
Yeah,
no?
yeah. Why not? Why not?
Okay.
It's fair. I put at first I was like, listen to what the man said. Then I went to Arrow Through Me for the best, and then I know that Mary Had a Little Lamb is my least favorite.
Oh,
I just not necessary for me to get into.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do so the Paul song, Beatle Paul song, best
Okay.
one, least one.
Let's see. Favorite Paul Beatles song. I'll say ooh, not gonna go obvious. I'm gonna say She's Leaving Home, favorite. And least favorite, can this be like a cover too, or it has to be
Oh, yeah, yeah.
an original?
No, that's fine.
Um, Least favorite Paul probably have to be an early one. Maybe P.S. I Love You.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
So I had You Never Gave Me Your Money, and then I put Hold Me Tight from
uh,
Meet the Beatles.
from Meet
And,
the Beatles. Yeah.
it hurts to hear. Yeah.
Oh God. Even then, he loved the title so much he had to write he might have to write it again for his own solo album,
Yeah.
for his own band album.
It's Hold Me Tight. It just seems
Yeah.
really it just hurts to hear. So you've been digging into Paul for so long, and I've been this book that Sinclair did recently. I'm in the middle of it, and I stopped reading all the Beatle stuff because it feels folkloric after a while. So I'm like, I heard this story before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's true, but you're repeating it. Like I feel that I've heard this. I could write my own book because I've read so much stuff. The Sinclair book right now feels fresh to me, where I think they're genuinely they're taking away a lot of the spin. They're just kind of like
Oh yeah.
saying things. They're written well as a like good writer. So I'm in the middle of it. I haven't finished
Oh,
it.
so
Totally.
what are you up to about it? You up to like wildlife or one of the, are you on one of the are they on the tour? Are they in Europe now?
I'm right at in the beginning of Ram. So I don't know how
Oh,
far
okay.
that it feels like it's a big book, but
It's a
that
fascinating book. And we've had them on the show. I got to meet those guys last year when they were over here to promote it. So many, as you say, they're just letting the facts tell the story, which is great.
yeah.
They're not spinning any new narrative. They're just going with the history, and these guys have done their research, man. Like Adrian and Alan have done their homework with this, and then so many new facts. Like I didn't realize a song like "I Lie Around" was as old as it was. You think about it just being the B side, right? To Live and Let Die, but it's actually, it goes back to Ram. It was in circulation then. So look, things like that you take out of that book and you're like, man, these guys are thorough, and man, are they on top of it. And volume 2 should be out at the end of this year, I think.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be done by then.
Yeah.
But the reason that I stopped reading the books is that the folkloric piece was like, you could obviously tell it was an anti-Paul slant. Where
Oh,
it was,
yes.
it was a, like John could do no wrong slant. It was like a real weird vibe that I was like, I'm not getting. Like I read a David Bowie one, and I said, this is him in Berlin, and I said, this is not true. Like whatever you're saying to me is not true. It doesn't ring true. It seems like you're piecing stuff together, and it's not true.
As I learned when I was in Liverpool for graduate school, learning about historiography, you learn more about the author's agenda than you actually do of the actual topic. We know the history of these events pretty much. It's the spin of the author that all these books have, which says more about the author than the actual topic. We know the topic. It's the Beatles. We know every movement, and we know the history. The spin of the author is what we're reading about, and why.
What have you learned through this whole Paul world, like in the last 5 years, that like kind of blew you away? And then what is the fable that you're like, I'm sick of this fable? Like some of it is what Paul like believes. Like sometimes Paul has fables.
And he does, and he likes to read, and that's where Adrian and Sinclair and Cozen kind of debunk the things he's talking about. Like, for example, like talking about how, Live and Let Die, and how he was going to take, and the film producer said, no, that's not what we want. Like that was all bogus. That was not really true. That's just something Paul likes to regurgitate because it sounds well. It just repeats well. It's a good story to tell. The nearly 5 years that I've been doing it, what I've seen, my biggest takeaway is that over the last 5 years, maybe 10, there is finally now an appreciation and respect for Paul's solo work. And you see it in all kinds of books now that I was waiting in my 20s and 30s for, that never appeared. And now here they are coming out of the woodwork. Ted Montgomery, Luca Perazzi, you name it. All these authors, pumping out these fantastic books just on Paul's solo career. Because as we know, you've read hundreds of Beatles books, or Paul biographies, it's this much Beatles, this much solo for like 40 years worth of his life. And it's now that balance that I've seen since joining the show with Tom is really, it's balanced now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got into the Beatles in 1973, it was the Red album. It was the Hey Jude album. And I was a little kid. I was 8 years old. I was obsessed with Yellow Submarine. And then from then on, I just kept on moving. And the press, the reviews, all through the 70s for Paul was always damning. It was almost like you felt sorry for the guy. Every out like London Town or Back to the Egg, every album, like right now, McCartney 2 is revered as a really kind of technological thing, but it got slammed.
Sure did.
When it came out, and people were like, this is trash, like blah 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 blah. It's like, so it's nice that people are going back, and I'm a big Red Rose Speedway. That was my first Paul McCartney album, and that, even with the additional tracks, you realize, wow, he was really onto something. Like this is a really phenomenal album.
Yeah, and the fans knew it. See, that's where the fans know, because those albums all sold well. If they were not good, they would not have sold. So he didn't really care. I mean, obviously he did care with the critics. He had the commercial success. He did not have the critical success, as you mentioned, with these reviews. And this is what I wrote. This is what I based my dissertation on in England, was that the fact that there was a very anti-Paul bias in this country after the breakup of the Beatles, because everybody just, mainly the journalists, all of them sided with John, and then they did not accurately listen to Paul's music fairly, without those Beatle rose colored glasses on, to say, let me just judge this on its own, without anything. And I guess it's easier to say now, 50 years on plus, but in the moment, it was probably so fresh and so raw. Technology was not advanced. All you had to go by. So I know with time it changes, but damn, people should have just been a little more, those reviewers should have been a little more open-minded, and, not just, it's just Paul. And he's the one that, broke the Beatles up, and I'm not going to accurately listen or give this album a favorable review, that now people love Ram, people love Red Rose Speedway, people love McCartney too, as you mentioned. It's always been good.
Yeah, yeah. It's the 1978, the London Town came out, and it was right beside Steely Dan's Asia. It was right
Mm-hmm.
beside Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. It had that vibe that was just like out there, and it worked well together. I mean, it was equally as interesting as those albums that came out. Uh, um, the one I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think the reason is that John came out bang with that Rolling Stone interview. He was acerbic. He was off the wall, pissed off. It's like,
Yeah.
and it was just like, okay, now I have a basis to like revenge and stuff. I think what happened with Get Back, it debunked a lot of the myth. Like you see them working together, they're being the as nice as they can with each other. They are being friends, and they're enjoying themselves. All this whole like, yeah, there could be fights, and I'm sure there was, but it wasn't as bad as it was. Those four people were in there together, just trying to bash out a project in a short period of time. What they did was magical. If you think about it, they had so much stuff against them to come up with this concept in a short period of time. It's a damn good album. It's a fantastic album. You
Yeah,
know?
and you see that in the footage, and that's what Get Back showed, that it was not as bad as it was, and obviously now we know. I mean, Let It Be has that connotation because of the film, but Get Back, thankfully, Peter and his team were able to show that it was just, and you see it. I mean, that at the end of that part one, that where George leaves and the three of them all hug. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean that tells you all you need to know.
yeah, yeah. I think that ruins every single book up to this point. Everything's tainted.
Right,
I I don't know how like they keep on coming up with fresh stuff about Abraham Lincoln. Like that dude's been dead forever. Where are they getting this information?
right.
But when it comes to the Beatles and the fact that everyone's writing books about them, they say the same damn thing. And
It's
now
like that one book that's just on. I forget who, Unmitigated Disaster, the Let It Be Sessions. Who wrote that
yeah,
book? I forget. See, that book just gets totally debunked now.
yeah, everything that's written is now wrong. Like it's
Yeah,
just now wrong. And I wanted to ask you about Beetle Fest. It seems like you're kind of involved with Beetle Fest now.
yeah.
Is it still based out in Jersey, which really helps you, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's based in New Jersey. And I went from going as a kid to now being invited to be on panels and discussions, and with the organizers, which is a dream come true for a kid who used to go to the thing. Went to. Oh, so we didn't have one in 2020. Tom and I were going to go. Obviously, we didn't have one. We didn't have one in 21. I went to Chicago's Fest in 22 and New York's, obviously. So I've gone to the last two in Chicago and in New York as a guest, panelist and podcaster. And that's been amazing. What a great group of people to be around and talk shop with. It's like a family that knows everybody because everybody speaks the same language,
Yeah, yeah. How cool is that? I mean, I went the Beetle. I think it was Beetle Fan Magazine. Remember the mag?
Oh,
I
yeah.
subscribed to that, so I went to a Beetle Fest, and that was a big deal for me. But now, like I'm listening to your shows, and you guys are recording your content, and it made me realize I think more and more that I deserve to go up and say, hey, what's going on?
When
Like,
what year did you go?
oh God. So the Beetle fan thing came out in the 80s. So this would have been like 83 or 4. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's changed. It's changed
Uh,
quite a bit, as we've talked about. It's not as with the advent of online marketplace and stuff. It's changed. Time is, it's the 50th year of the fest this year.
uh,
Sadly, a lot of the guests have passed on due to their age. So it is, and this is the 60th year, obviously, anniversary. So it is, the fest is, I think, in a kind of, I don't know if it's winding down, but it's you can tell that it's the heyday of the fest was, the 80s and the 90s.
yeah. Yeah. Where everyone like it was mania inside there. You felt
Oh,
the energy.
you
Yeah.
felt it. You felt it. And it's still a nice event because the same people are there. It's just smaller than what it was when you went, and certainly when I went back in the day.
uh, the one thing I know that you have other music interests, so I want to get that before we head up. But
Sure.
um, the you've been talking about, I guess, like the Who box set. You've been loving the box set.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember Poco Home. I said that wrong. Yes, Genesis and Elton John. These are the things that I've heard you talk about on the podcast. What is like? I see that you have some Dylan behind you. What
Oh
is
yeah.
what's turning you on? You're going backwards. You're finding some new stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I'm at a place in my life where these artists, I've kind of known about them, but I didn't dive into them. I'm a big fan of progressive rock, as you say, Genesis, yes, ELP. I like I love all that music. I have the time now to, whereas 5 or 10 years ago, I was maybe on like Bob Dylan. I kind of knew like a little bit. Now I dove in 5 years ago, and I'm trying to absorb everything. Same thing with Procol Harum. So I have to give credit to Sirius XM with them, because the Deep Tracks channel, sometimes you'll hear a track that's a pretty deep album cut, and you're like, ooh, that was good. Where can I find that? And then that starts a rabbit hole of
Yeah.
collecting and finding out new stuff, and then opening up. So that's why, like, I can still find enjoyment out of music that might be 40 or 50 years old, because I've never heard it before. So to me, it's new.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. There, like I would say that I think there's a Genesis tribute band in your area called Trespass. I would see if you can find them. They also uh they do the older Peter
Yeah,
Gabriel.
I've heard of that. I've heard of that tribute band. I just saw the musical box last
Yep,
week.
awesome. Yep,
They
yeah,
were they were fantastic. They're like obviously the number one trip. But I've heard of Trespass. I think they're a South Jersey based
yep,
uh,
yep.
Genesis band, and I'm gonna go see another one next week called the Genesis Show, and they're doing the Duke Lyceum show.
Ooh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have a report on that on the show.
The thing about see, I am kicking and screaming. I had vinyl and I had CDs. So now, like, I just started doing streaming, and I find it very difficult to find to concentrate on an artist, and concentrate on an album. So I'm bouncing around. Um, Part two is that I'm preparing for my show, so I'm
Oh,
listening to stuff that is like, okay, I'm gonna have to find that hot new jazz album. I'm doing this or
right,
that.
right.
So it's kind of pulling me away from what I really enjoy. Is like I can't tell you we're doing a thing on Funkadelic in Parliament. So I'm
Oh,
going back and listen to every single Funkadelic. Like Funkadelic was hot in Detroit, and they have this like kind of garage heavy metal sound back
mm-hmm.
in the day, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. Like that's a whole new thing. So it's hard uh, to stream and fall in love with an artist. I'm having difficulty doing
So
it.
you're strictly streaming now. You're not physical. You're not physical media now.
I've moved multiple times that I gave up. I sold all my albums, and then I sold all my CDs. I downloaded them. They're all on files.
Right.
Like, so I have all the hard drives of everything.
Oh, so you have
Uh,
you ripped it all, so you have it.
yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
it's still not the
it's
same.
tough. It's not the same. I mean, can you do it? Sure, you can do it. I mean, I like it for being on the go, like you can just listen to it in the car. But if
Yeah.
you're home, you want to enjoy a different kind of listening experience. That's got to be tough, because you seem like an old school analog kind of first gen fan. To have streaming only is got to be a little bit tough.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts me for a whole bunch of reasons. Like I just feel that I'm doing like a series on my show this year called "Why Is It Good" and "Why Is It Personal," where I'm picking out 12 albums that I like, that I know that's not that great. Like there's a Miles Davis album that I love, that I know that if you rank it, probably number 20 on the list. So when I have these conversations with jazz dudes, they're like, "What's your favorite Miles Davis?" I'm going, "Oh, it's Decoy," and you can see their face like shrink and their smile. They're like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Like you're like, dude, what's wrong with you? So it's kind of like the only reason it's my favorite is that I bought that album, I played it to death. I was learning about Miles Davis, and yes, it's dated, but boy, do I like it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it gets personal. It's a personal thing for me,
very,
and
very
I think
personal.
when you do, when you're listening to streaming, that whole little connection of me going to Tower Records and buying that thing, it doesn't exist. So
No.
I see that we're in less than 10 minutes, and I don't want to keep you longer, but now and then, the red and blue, they're hot Beatle things. What's your take on all that happened?
I like it. Not what I thought would be. I thought we would get another, Rubber Soul or something, or another box. After 2022 with Revolver. I enjoy it. Obviously, I think the red is a little more impressive because you're hearing the earlier stuff with the new punchier mix.
Yep.
I'm a little disappointed with the different sequencing between the CD and the LP. The LP, I think, should have been sequenced like the CD and not just have all the extra tracks on one disc. Chronologically, that would have been better if it was like that, in my opinion. Opening up side 5 with Now and Then, or it's just it should end on vinyl with Now and Then. I have loved it. I loved it. It took me a while to warm up to the song. Not gonna lie, I didn't love it right away. Then I saw the video, and I was done. Once I saw that, and I know it's hokey and jokey, but it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. They're taking the piss out of each other. It's what they're doing, and it's coming from a place of love. So it was fine. I loved it. I thought for what it was great. And we got a little flack about our opinion on it.
Oh, that's one thing I forgot to ask.
Yeah,
are you getting a lot of flack for your? I mean, like, because you guys are so positive. That's one thing I'd say about your podcast as others, that you're very pro, and you're pro Paul, and you're pro.
We are, but we'll if we don't like something, we'll say it. There's plenty of things of Paul songs that I'm not really keen on, but generally we keep it light and positive. Yeah, and people out there that are breaking down Now and Then as a song structure and form are missing the point. They're missing the point because they're not realizing that it's just the last song. They're trying to go out, with one last song together with modern technology, two guys in their 80s at the end of their life, and trying to just do one last thing together. Don't break it down like it's Dear Prudence or Rocky Raccoon. Okay, you can't look at that song that way, and that's what some clowns out there do, and we disagree with them. So
yeah. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, that song was supposed to be like each anthology disc was supposed to have one new song, so that was the one that was missing, and
correct.
Then that has to grate on you. You're like, okay, well, we kind of had it, like it's almost there, like let's knock this out. And I mean,
and they did. I wish that the marketing of it was a little bit of a disaster. I kind of hearing about it, and all of a sudden you get 2 weeks and then it's going to drop. I mean, we were hearing about it since June when Paul let it slip. So listen, it came out in the fourth quarter, right in time for the Christmas market, which is that's typical, and that's good. So we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, I look at the red and the blue. The one thing that's good is that they're cleaner sounding for a younger audience.
Yes.
It's just proven that younger people don't like to hear old, timey stuff. So now you're playing "Love Me Do," which actually sounds really cool, right beside a Taylor Swift song in a mix.
It sounds sounds modern. And especially those early songs, those early songs that that had not been given any kind of treatment. It gives you a taste test of what's coming, hopefully with Rubber Soul.
Yeah. The other part is like I would like to see supposedly all the, I know we're down to the wire, almost wire. All the Beatles had recordings, like they had their own cameras for Magical Mystery Tour. There's so much footage that I'd like them to clean it up. I'd like to see an interactive video thing where you can go in and you can kind of create your own Magical Mystery Tour. You can pick the sequencing.
You can make your own. You can make your own film because they had all that footage. That's not a bad idea.
With a video, like you can kind of create it all because it needs a little work, but every little piece is there, and you can kind of create your own. I'm the Eggman video that's different, and it'd be cool. It's like you feel like you're a part of.
Yeah, there's so much out there. That actually is a really cool thing to think about. You make your own edit. Of the film with based on all these cameras that they had, especially Paul. Paul always had the camera rolling.
They find every single shred of whatever they have. Put it in, clean it up, put it in there, and then just say, with a software, I'm sure you can drop and drag and kind of come up with
very, very easily. Yes.
All right. Okay. So the reason I really reached out to you is that one, I am a super fan. Two, you are carrying the torch of the Beatle world, and I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but for the people who are listening, You guys are really, you're my friends that I can't touch. You're my friends that I can't turn to the side and say, yeah, like I love like kisses on the bottom. Yeah, of course you're talking about, there is some kind of conversation where you're passionate about that I can't turn to people in my neighborhood. They think I'm strange.
Right.
So
It's
so
that this is our world. This is our world and our community, and it's a language that we as fans can only understand. That's why when you go to these conventions and stuff, it's great. You meet people, you might just met them or whatever, but you all know that you all know the music inside and out, and that's what brings everybody together. It's the power of
yeah,
the music.
yeah, and the passion level the experiences that we had as
Oh,
we were raised on them, and how we've intertwined them into our whole
yeah, no matter where you are in on the timeline, if you're first generation or you're second like me, it doesn't matter where you are. It's because that love of the music and where you are with it and where you and when you discovered it, those are those memories that you kind of carry with you,
yeah,
and then you can connect with people on. And that's the beauty of it.
yeah, great. I love it. Two Legs, Andy Nichols.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tom's old house. I did watch a couple of YouTubes. He had this awesome like Paul McCartney album thing behind him. And
Yes.
I wanted to copy that. I just moved to a new house and I went, ooh, I could do that. That looks so good.
Oh, yeah, he
Uh,
got that off the ground cutout cardboard thing that he has now in his new place. But I think
and
he's
yeah,
going to be moving again, I think eventually, but I'll get to see him. He'll be out here in New Jersey in a couple of weeks because he's coming to
yeah,
the fest. So it'll be great to see him and have him here again for the third one in a row, 22,
yeah,
23, and 24 now. Wow.
good, good. And yeah, so I thank you for everything that you guys do.
Oh, our
You
pleasure.
are, yeah, you are touching people and they don't even, I mean, and not in a negative way, not a bad touch. You are touching people in a really important way. And I'm one of your guys' fans. That's why I reached out to you.
Oh, my
And
my
so I,
pleasure. Thank you for listening and supporting us. Sometimes you forget, when in the hustle and bustle of your day, if a podcast or something, connects to somebody and brings somebody some joy, then we're doing something right because we just we speak from the heart most of the time, I think, and people hopefully resonate with that, and that we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing.
yeah, good job. Yeah, I thank you. I thank you very much
Thanks.
for joining me today. This is going to be on the Beatles come to America, the podcast also. I'll make another copy and put it on my jazz show so people can get a taste of it too. It'll be on YouTube, the video version of what we're talking about. So
Lovely.
it'll be out there. I'll give you a copy so you have it also. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Thomas. Really appreciated it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm gonna hit stop recording.